The Zephyrian Council had made their calculations with cold precision. Earth's defenses were primitive, its weapons laughably outdated, and its people scattered across a single blue marble in the vast cosmic ocean. What they hadn't calculated was the fury of a species with nothing left to lose. Admiral Kexathara watched through the viewing port of his flagship as the final orbital bombardment cannons finished their work. Where once green continents had dotted the planet's surface, now only smoldering wastelands remained. The human homeworld was finally silent. Excellent work. Kexathara clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. Deploy the harvester fleets, strip everything useful from that rock and prepare to move on to the next system. But Captain Veltar, his communications officer, was frantically working at her console, her forearms dancing across the holographic displays. Sir, I'm detecting something unusual. The humans' deep space monitoring stations. They're still active. All of them. Kexathara's compound eyes narrowed. Impossible. We destroyed every orbital installation. No, sir, these are different. They're hidden throughout the outer system. Asteroid bases, ice moon installations, deep space platforms we never detected. And, sir, her voice trembled. They're all broadcasting the same message. Let me hear it. The bridge filled with a crackling transmission, the voice unmistakably human despite the static. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Coalition. You have destroyed our world. You have murdered 8 billion of our people. You believed us weak because we fought with honor, showed mercy, sought diplomacy. That was your mistake. You wanted to see what humanity becomes when we abandon mercy? You're about to find out. 3 months later, the Zephyrian Empire learned what the humans had been building in the shadows while their homeworld burned. The first Zephyrian colony to go dark was Kepler 442b, a mining world with 12 million inhabitants. The distress signal lasted exactly 37 seconds before cutting to static. When the rescue fleet arrived, they found empty cities, the inhabitants simply gone. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just vacant streets and the lingering smell of ozone. The second colony fell 2 weeks later. This time there were survivors, barely. The few Zephyrians who escaped in evacuation pods spoke of ships that seemed to bend light around themselves, weapons that turned living beings to ash without touching their surroundings, and soldiers in black armor who moved through their cities like death incarnate. But it was the third colony where the Zephyrian Empire truly understood what they had unleashed. The human fleet didn't even bother with stealth this time. Massive dreadnoughts, sleek and predatory, dropped out of hyperspace directly above the planet's capital. But these weren't the clumsy, bulky warships the Empire remembered from their initial invasion of Earth. These vessels hummed with technologies that shouldn't have existed, energy signatures that registered off every known scale. Admiral Kexathara himself led the defense fleet, confident that superior numbers would carry the day. His armada of 300 ships against 50 human vessels seemed like acceptable odds. The battle lasted 4 minutes. The human weapons didn't just destroy Zephyrian ships, they unmade them. Molecular disintegrators reduced proud warships to component atoms in seconds. Gravity hammers crushed entire squadrons into singular points before releasing them as expanding clouds of superheated plasma. And through it all, those black-armored soldiers teleported directly onto Zephyrian bridges, moving with inhuman speed and precision. Kexathara watched in horror as his flagship's tactical display showed his fleet being systematically annihilated. But worse than the destruction was the message that came through on all frequencies, spoken in perfect Zephyrian. You showed our world no mercy. Why should we show you any? The few surviving ships of Kexathara's fleet limped back to the homeworld, carrying news that sent shockwaves through the Empire's leadership. The humans hadn't just survived, they had evolved. The destruction of Earth had been a chrysalis, and what emerged was something far more dangerous than the species they had tried to eliminate. The Zephyrian High Command called an emergency session. Ancient counselors who had overseen the conquest of 100 worlds now faced something they had never encountered. An enemy that fought without rules, without honor, without mercy. They're using our own people against us, reported General Thexmore, his carapace scarred from a recent engagement. They've developed some kind of neural override technology. Our soldiers turn on their own units mid-battle. Our colonies report their own security forces hunting them through the streets. How many systems have we lost? Demanded the High Counselor. 17 and counting, Your Excellence. But that's not the worst part. Thexmore's mandibles clicked nervously. They're not just conquering our worlds, they're studying us. Every engagement, they adapt faster, learn quicker. They're taking our technology, our biology, our culture, and making it their own. The High Counselor's voice was barely a whisper. What have we created? The answer came 6 months later when the human fleet arrived at the Zephyrian homeworld itself. They didn't attack immediately. Instead, they broadcast a final message to the Empire that had destroyed their world. You taught us that mercy is weakness. You showed us that survival requires absolute ruthlessness. We are no longer the species you tried to exterminate. We are what you made us, and we have come home to thank you. As the first human weapons began to charge, Admiral Sarah Chen's scarred face appeared on every screen across the planet. Her eyes held no anger, no hatred, only the cold calculation of a predator that had learned to hunt. You destroyed our world, she said simply. Now we destroy yours, but unlike you, we'll be thorough about it. The Zephyrian Empire, which had stood for 10,000 years and conquered countless civilizations, fell in less than a week. In their final moments, as their cities burned and their people fled, they finally understood the truth about the species they had so casually tried to eliminate. Humanity's greatest weakness had been their capacity for mercy. Without it, they were unstoppable.